This has actually been the best league so far for minions, right? I know, right? Hard to believe, whatever. It was season 1, lots of damage. Season 2 was a nightmare. It's only the 3rd league, essentially. But this is by far probably the best feeling the minions have felt so far. So let's talk about it. Before the league, I actually made a wish list, right? Of like 12 items. So these are the same 12 items. And some of them have been addressed. Some of them were fixed really well. Then the others, a lot of them are still kind of there, right? Like starting off with number 1, the spectres and the bugs. Movement speed, damage scaling. That was kind of like a big thing from 0.2. Like I made a bunch of videos about how like the elite death knights and we should have more elite spectres and whatever. And this one's kind of fixed, semi. The bugs are still there. You know, bugs still exist. The whole wisp form thing. I hate wisp form. It's just like as soon as your specters come out of wisp form, they pause for like a second, right? It doesn't feel good. It kind of sucks. And on top of that, all the move speed for specters is really only one that's good, and we all know which one it is, right? It's the ant. The other movement speed ones, I mean, I guess there's a strider also has good movement speed, so there are a few that have good movement speed, but as far as damage scaling for specters, there's only a few that are good, right? That are actually usable. I mean, technically they're all usable, but there's definitely one that just kind of outperforms all of them. Then minion AI is number 2. This is still kind of a huge issue. Body blocking, melee clear. I don't really feel it as much this league, just because I play a lot with a lich, you know. So I use Rupture the Soul in order to get around melee clear. So, but then what about in the future, right? Are other minions gonna have melee clear? Like it looks like right now the rumblings are summon wolf, right? The wolves for the druid, they have a leap that's an AoE, so they have a little bit of clear for that summon or whatever. But what about the current set of monsters, right? Current set of minions, not a lot of them have melee clear, really. Like the only way to kind of go around it, melee clear, is using unearth, right? Unearthed bone constructs. So if you have a lot of unearthed bone constructs, they kind of make up for having this like lack of a ton of melee minions by you having a lot of these like jumping skeletons, which is kind of a nice change. As far as body blocking, that sucks. Let me go back to this melee clear with the unearth because I didn't do him enough justice. Unearth is really good. They made it really good with that little jumping gap closer attack. On top of that, quality gives them speed, right? So they have a lot of movement speed for the unearthed minions, which is one of the big problems with specters. And then they have the gap closing leap. And if you put on rapid attacks, that gap closing leap is 25% faster. So, right, those are the recipes of like good melee minions. But anyway, back to body blocking. So body blocking still a thing. If you play like Augury or something, Augury is a disgusting map for body blocking. It's just, you don't feel it as much now in 0.3 because most of the time you're using ants, right? Ants have a far attack range, so they kind of get around each other. There's not as many that you have of them, but then they also have this weird effect where if you have multiple ants and they spawn on top of each other, they're body blocked and locked into place. So this is still an issue. And part of the reason you also don't really feel it as much is you don't really run into those type maps as often, right? Unless you're like in trenches. Holy shit, you're in trenches, you got a bunch of snipers, you don't have freaking convocation. Convocation is I don't want to say new, but that's a topic that, man, there's no way that I can think having convocation doesn't fix all this. So it's not my job to find solutions. I hope they find a solution because they don't want to put convocation, but if we had convocation in the game, it would fix all of that. But I could see, you know, they're trying to, you know, move away from PoE 1, and I don't know. I trust them that they'll fix it because you can't argue that convocation won't make it better. This is just the way it is, right? This last one right here for minion AI is the aggro range. This one kills me, right? Because the ants had far aggro range, and then they got slightly nerfed to not have that same aggro range. But this aggro range, that far aggro range, that's what the bone constructs for unearth have. If you ever see it, if you just throw in an earth with no enemies around, sometimes they'll trail off, and they'll just like go for stuff. They'll go for stuff off screen. So it would be nice if they somehow instituted like some type of like aggressive setting for minions, because that would kind of take care of a lot of the well, I guess, I don't know, take care, but it would feel better, right? It would feel better. Sometimes there's like monsters on screen and your minions won't even attack them because they're, for whatever reason, they're sleeping on the job, you know? And number 3, the support gems. I had a big issue with support gems. I forgot what I said, but they fixed support gems really well in this patch, right? Multiple support gems. It was because of muster. We used to have muster in 0.2 and just have these useless monsters just to get muster bonus. But now they made it to where, obviously, right, everyone can use as many support gems of different like minions and stuff like that. It was a huge change. Huge change. It made minions feel so much better. It feels really good being able to use those different support gems in all these different minions. I mean, albeit there's still the lineage ones, right? What if you could put a Dialos on every minion? Overpowered, but who knows? It feels really good. Number 4, right? The minion death timer. This semi got fixed, right? In 0.2, when I made my video, it was different. It was like the minion death timer wasn't one death timer with last gas, so it's different now. Before, it was like as soon as your minion died, the timer would start. The death timer would start, and then you could have last gas to eat up that time that they're dead. But now, instead, what it is, if you have last gasp, the minion that dies with last gasp on, it doesn't reset the death timer if one is already there. So if you put last gasp on all your minions, right? If one dies and then they start dying in like sequence, no longer will the death timer reset. So I don't know how I feel about this, because now you're putting last gasp in like take up a support slot for pretty much, you know, if you're having this like revive time issue. Or you're gonna have to put passive points into revive, or have like a ton of clerics or something, you know. So it's decent fix. I tend to use last gasp on everything. That's just kind of like my solution. So they kind of fixed the minion death timer, or they adjusted it. We'll see what happens. Maybe if they add in more changes to it, they just shadow change it. They don't even say what they did, you know. Number 5 is the spirit adjustments. I wasn't sure how they would do spirit adjustments, so instead of, what was it, I think the Vile Vulture was 120, right? And now it's 91, so it's 30 off. So that's kind of huge. It is nice. You can definitely feel it. And part of the other thing why spirit feels kind of okay, it feels a lot better, is it's a lot easier to get a scepter with a really high spirit on it. It's easier to get flat spirit and spirit hybrid on a scepter now, you know, with the same amount of investment that you have in 0.2. So they did adjust the spirit costs of the you know, the spectres, but they also, if you're playing the game, it is easier to get higher spirit scepters. So this one's kind of like, it's kind of smoothed out. Now number 6, right, the passive tree. So if we look at the passive tree, well, what was my complaint? My old complaint is that we were spread too thin on the passive tree, and it didn't feel strong enough, right? Because you had to get like minion life, minion health, energy shield, freaking all this stuff everywhere, right, for your build in the passive tree. But now it doesn't feel that way. Right now, you know, I can get a ton of energy shield, I can get damage, I can go all the way over here, attack speed. I don't feel like I have to overly focus on minion damage, like getting every single point to be successful. Or I don't have to feel like I need to get all this elemental resistance anymore. I'm fine with just resistance right here, over here. Mostly because the reasoning for this is endgame is easier. Minions got a little bit of a buff, right? They had a buff every level, so it did help. So I don't feel the way I felt at the beginning or at the end of 0.2, where I felt like I was stretched too thin on the passive tree. But with that said, instead of the passive tree getting updated, it's more like the end game got easier. And because the end game is easier and we got a little bit of a buff, you feel like you have more freedom to kind of pick and choose what you want off the passive tree. At least that's my 2 cents. That's how I feel about it versus how I felt about it pre 0.3. Now let's go back here, right? End game power scaling, number 7. This was my old complaint. Investment to power ratio didn't feel good. I made a whole video about minion damage scaling needs help, right? And right now, I still feel that end game power scaling for minions doesn't feel good, right? And the reason it doesn't feel good is because these sanctified scepters that are +5, right? This thing, this +4 minion skills, it has to deal with skill levels, right? Plus minion of all skill levels. The only way to boost damage is through these items, right? And also this one jewel that costs 800 divines. So for me, the amount of investment that you have to put for the damage that you end up having for the amount of effort, it doesn't feel good. For me, I don't like the way that feels. I wish that there was different ways to scale damage. You know, hopefully they add that in. Plus minion is still great. It's mostly just because, man, dude, the sanctification system too, although it is cool, you know, you can't mirror sanctified items, whatever, it's there. It's kind of like a gambling mechanic that'll keep you playing for months, you know what I mean, to try to get this like extra +4 to +5. But for this amulet, I am 1 in 15 on sanctifications for +4 minion amulets. This is the my first try of making a +4 amulet was the only one that actually, you know, succeeded. All the other 14 that I did all failed. So it doesn't feel good, right? Fuck, it sucks. And then even worse, when you're trying to make a corrupted helmet +1, the odds of getting the +1 corruption on the helmet, super small. But these are complaints for like, I don't know, top 2% of players, right? 90%, 99% of people don't even care about this stuff, I think. I don't know. That's what they say. But to me, that power scaling, it doesn't feel good. It feels great going all the way to like level 32. You know, you're getting like items that are easily attainable. You're grinding through the game, and then you hit a wall. But with that said, I think it's like that for every class, so I can't really complain too much, you know, but that's how I feel about it. I don't like this plus minion level thing. But for now, I think that's what they're going to settle on for power scaling, so hopefully it gets addressed, because it doesn't feel good to put in 2 mirrors and then really not make that big of a deal. Like it is a big deal, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal. You know, there's nothing like game changing. It would be nice if it was something game changing, like all of a sudden things are really just like dying and there's like this really clear feel for it. But I don't know, I think I've talked about it enough. The next one, active abilities, right? So the old complaint that the mana cost is too high, right? And right now, active abilities, when your minions are level 35 plus, the cost is still too high. Still way too high. I tried playing a build, right, with the arsonist to use the explosive demise. 3 casts and I'm out of mana. So that still needs to get changed. I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe there's like a passive that you can put in that like halves the cost, you know, and then on top of that with efficiency, it's like a 20% or 15% mana cost. Who knows? I don't know. That's for them to figure out. Like Frost Bomb is gone. Frost Bomb was a great skill on the Ice Mage. Now it's been replaced with the Frost Armor. That skill sucks. No one uses it, unfortunately, right? And then the way it's targeting on controller, it kind of sucks. That's you know, you'll cast it into nowhere sometimes, affecting only 1 minion. So, but that's like a controller issue, right? So this is just kind of like feedback and my opinion on it. As far as them, like, I don't know, active abilities are cool. I'd like to use them, but the ones that are actual damage based and that are really nice to use, mana cost is still too high. So I'd like to see that change. Number 9, the general bugs. So these are the bugs that I thought of before the league started. The Storm Mage attack range, this is still a bug. Font of Rage, this got removed. Sacrificial Lamb, targeting only 1 skeletal warrior is still there. So I don't know, maybe that's not, you know, maybe those won't change. This one, I hope this one changes. The Storm Mage attack range, because, you know, that's a great minion, but it still suffers from this weird, like, if you don't know, if your Storm Mages run into a mob and they're at peak maximum range and they don't move, their attack will whiff constantly because of something to do with the hitboxes and being out of range, right? And then there's some new complaints. The umbilical cord. The belt that's the umbilical cord, it has a glitch. It doesn't work with unique potions. That's unfortunate, because it has a really nice mod where, you know, minions under the effect of potions while that belt is equipped, they can't die. And it's not the case with unique belts. So that kind of sucks, right? The Reaver, still bugged. These guys, what the bug is if you look at the Reaver, it says rage increases their attack speed. If you give a Reaver maximum range, their attack speed does not increase, right? So that's a bug. The weapon swap bugs, if you don't know, if you're using 2 sets of minions, right, on your weapon swap 1 and 2, let me see if I can show this. Here, let's see if we can show this weapon swap bug. If you don't know, right, I have a weapon swap 1, right, all my spirit is pretty much used. My weapon swap 2, I have these guys set up. But if you look at my skill, right, I'm currently on my weapon set 1. So look at this ability, right? If I use this ability on my skeletal brute, the 0 shows up. Then if I press the ability again, I weapon swap. Right? It is a very annoying glitch. It makes it so that way if you are using active abilities and your build relies on active abilities and you're spamming them, and accidentally press it, you weapon swap. It's very, very annoying. So I hope they can change it. You know, I don't know what it is. I'm sure they're going to change it. GGG likes to do that where they're fixing stuff and they won't introduce it till the next league. So hopefully that gets changed. And that along with blasphemy. Blasphemy is bugged. It only works on my weapon set 1. Right? If I turn it on weapon set 2. Oh, I'm lying. Wait, does it work on weapon set 2 now? Oh, it works this time. Okay, that's good. Sometimes what'll happen is, right, your blasphemy will only work on one weapon set. So I can't get it to work right now, but this is good. But it is very annoying. I don't know what the blasphemy, what's going on with it. But there are times where it just won't work on one weapon set, either 1 or 2 or vice versa. Number 10 on the list was Raging Spirits. Right, the old complaint was that they were nerfed to the ground, but Raging Spirits aren't bad. Actually, it's on here, but they're actually good in the campaign. They're great in the campaign. As far as endgame, I don't have an endgame build with Raging Spirits. I have a friend that does, and I think it's fine for him, right? So, good job on the Raging Spirits. I thought it was a total nerf. I mean, it would be nice if, let's say you get to a certain level, you cast more than 2. That would be really, really nice, you know? Cast more than 2, bring it back to, like, some type of, I don't know, level requirement to cast more than 2. Because that would be nice. That would be nice for the Raging Spirits. Number 11, Zombies. Old complaint, is there a meme? New complaint, is there still a meme? So number 12, right? Better uniques and socketables. So as far as uniques, there's not really any better uniques, right? They actually nerfed, well, I don't know. I can't remember now if it was nerfed in 0.2 or just in 0.3. Some of the leveling uniques got nerfed. Like the shield or whatever, that's nerfed. But there's a new shield. But I would love to see some other more uniques, things that change the build, obviously, right? Change the way the minions interact and stuff like that. The problem is in this game is if you put a unique in a socket in an area that's like gloves or something, we already have a unique belt, right? If you look at my gear, what spaces do I have for uniques? I already have this unique belt, so that's a spot. You can't do the weapon because the weapon's where you get +5. If you do a unique on the helmet, you're going to lose out on 3 minion skill levels. You do an amulet, you're going to lose 4 minion skill levels. You do the chest piece as a unique, you're going to lose a ton of energy shield and spirit. You also have this reservation. Then what? You could do rings, right? Rings, we have a unique for ring slots, but then rings are where you get most of your resistances. Unique offhand, right? As long as the offhand has +2 minion levels, that's good. Unique boot, there's already a unique boot, right? It's kind of here or there. It's all right, but it's not that great. You lose a lot for having Bones of Valir. I mean, it is nice. You get the extra reduced reservation, but you're losing a lot. You're losing 330 flat spirit, all sorts of, what is this? How much resistance is this? 70, 90 elemental resistance, you know? And then your movement speed too, you're losing that. So this is what, 50% extra movement speed. So boots, although it is a slot you could put a level or a unique on, you lose a lot of like quality of life, which never feels good. Then that only leaves the gloves, right? So some unique gloves, what, you have grave binds on there if you wanted to use a certain build. But so you know what I mean? Better uniques, if it has to get done right. Like maybe a unique flask, unique charms for minions. But yeah, I don't know. As far as the better uniques, one that was like, if it was one that was your minions gain the benefits that you have. So like, let's say if you have +1 to poison from passive skills, it also goes on your minions. That would be kind of cool. That'll allow poison builds and stuff like that. I don't know, just ideas, throwing that out there. As far as sockets, right? The sockets for the most part are the same sockets. Ralakesh's, movement speed sockets, 60%. There's faster energy shield sockets. The sockets aren't that great. That hasn't been changed. I'd like to see some, you know, some more sockets. Like, I don't know what. That's up to them. But like, for instance, you know, allies in your presence increase 30% increased damage. 30% increased damage is not really that great of a socket because 30% increase damage as a percentage for... Hold on, I have to show this. Right? That applies to right here. Minions deal increased damage. So 30% of this, that's about 12% instead of 12% increased damage overall. Something like that. So I don't know, maybe some better sockets to change something. That'll help with minion power scaling, right? If we had sockets for damage or something that go on gloves or boots or something, or a chest piece, sockets to help with that. +1 minion socket. That would be crazy. That would be the way. +1 minion socket. Oh my god. Right? And then you do it on a belt that acts as a chest piece. You put in 2, you get 4 minion levels from a belt. That would be crazy. That would be worth 24% increased reservation of efficiency, is getting +4 minions on a belt. That would be a really good socket. But yeah, so that's the list, right? That's the list that I made for the previous league, or before the league of 0.3. So what do I think? You know, what's my review of 0.3? Honestly, if I had to rate 0.3 as far as how the minions feel, like not the end game playing, right? The end game mechanics, whatever, they're working on that. But as far as how the minions play from 0.1 to 0.2 to now 0.3, man, it's like a 9. It's like a 9 for me. I know it's crazy to say it, right? Because in 0.1, let me just talk about this. In 0.1, when you moved around, you didn't have sprint, right? The addition of sprint, amazing. Minions, like the minions get left behind or whatever, but the addition of sprint is amazing. The reason I bring that up is because in 0.1, the way you had to travel and pull your minions around is you would use leap slam and then you would blink, and then that would put you out of range, so your minions would appear right on top of you, right? And that's how you moved around. And it was janky as hell. Janky as hell. But as far as 0.1 minion damage scaling, out of the park, right? Super strong minions. But as of right now, the way these guys feel, the way it feels to map and run around and, you know, weapon swap, keep the same support skills, weapon swap in, user curses, whatever, blasphemy, having like this entire army of minions, casting on Earth to get 30 extra scorpions that move super fast and they jump, feels really good. Like, to me, how the minions play in comparison to the previous leagues, I know, right? Probably get a lot of shit for giving it a 9. I give that shit a 9. But yeah, right. The announcement is next week. I'm wondering, right? I'm wondering what they're going to give us. Maybe the druid is a minion class. Maybe, you know, we get some other fixes. You know for a fact ants are going to get nerfed. Power zealots are going to get nerfed. So I'm curious, you know, I want to see what they change. See what they're going to play. I don't know when I'm going to league start. But yeah, my gamble for the league mechanic is blight. That's my gamble for the league mechanic. The only reason I'm saying that, if you look at the back of the title card for Last of the Druids, it's a root, right? And the root has these like gold, like these yellowish blight colored appendages on the end as it sprouts. I'm basing that league mechanic just on that. That's my 2 cents for my gamble for 0.4 league mechanic. It's blight. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.